Welcome back to our coverage of IDFC First Bank presents ET Now, Leaders of Tomorrow, Season 13 Springboard in the city of Coimbatore. Now, Coimbatore has had somewhat of an under-the-radar rise. But can this homegrown manufacturing mecca become India's leading China Plus One destination? Well, we're here, surrounded by industry experts, to find out for ourselves.
Rajiv, I'd love to kick off the conversation with you, sir. All right? When we hear the phrase China Plus One, it, long story short, means multinational companies essentially diversifying their supply chain dependency away from China or beyond China. But to set some context, to what extent is China Plus One a geopolitical strategy versus an economic opportunity?
I think it's a bit of both. Geopolitical, because there are obviously a lot of uncertainties, there is a lot of volatility going on, and who knows till how much more longer it will keep going on.
Absolutely, there's no end in sight.
So definitely from a political uncertainty perspective, but more importantly, it's definitely an opportunity for India. And at least we as part of Deloitte and as part of the consulting framework, the way we think about it, the true growth and the economic importance, the advantage, the opportunity lies in the Tier 2, Tier 3 cities.
All right. Well, fair enough. And if you have set that context, Aparna, if I could now come to you. Of course, as the Manchester of South India and as a textile capital in and of its own right, that much is established that Coimbatore ticks the box there. But this city also provides everything from poultry to pumps. It is no longer simply a Tier 2 or Tier 3 community surrounded by cotton mills, correct? My understanding is that we meet upwards of 50% of the country's pump and motor needs. That's a single sector right there. There are over 25 GCCs here, and the list goes on and on. So it's clearly a well-diversified economy. But what's also so interesting is a disproportionate number of women have found success within the small business community. What is it about this city in particular that sets them up for success?
So you said it all about Coimbatore. And what distinguishes, I can actually proudly say that out of the Indian percentage of women-led businesses is about 35 to 40%. And Coimbatore has 30% women entrepreneurs, women-led businesses.
That is a huge round of applause.
That's a huge number. And it is only possible because of the very disciplined attitude of the women, of the people generally here, and also a chance given to women and men equally. Many of the women-led enterprises are most of them who I know personally are family-led businesses, family-owned, and they're managing beautifully. And wherever there is a women-led enterprise, I'm sure, and there is discipline, there's responsibility, there's sustainability, there's consistency, and there's everything. So Coimbatore has been lucky to have so many women at the helm of affairs, and they're doing beautifully well, and I'm sure it's just the beginning. And 30% is not a small number.
No small number by any means. It's staggering. It's multiple times the national average, right? And coming to you now, Manikandan sir. Now, if Rajiv perceives China Plus One as an economic opportunity, right? Then let's play devil's advocate for a moment and look at the Coimbatore-specific challenges, all right? And a few that perhaps come to mind, the first and foremost might be capacity building. If you're trying to manufacture, not just in India and for India, but make in India, but make for the world, capacity building becomes a critical criteria. It's going to require infrastructure upgrades. It's going to require technology advancements. There's signs of that, but are we far along enough? Your thoughts?
Speaking from a Coimbatore perspective, Coimbatore is always known for its out-of-the-box thinking and frugal manufacture. If there is a support coming in from improving infrastructure and logistics alone, then the backbone that's already there can actually help in augmenting production by at least 50 to 60% by way of, improved production processes and better efficiency with respect to managing the resources. So a 50 to 60% of our installed capacity can be augmented without great fanfare. This city is known for that. We've always managed tighter schedules. That's one. Two, The biggest advantage for China is, as I said, they've got a leap before us. The advantage of Coimbatore is almost similar to that. We have an amazing ecosystem around us. You can walk into a neighbor's production facility and ask for a favor.
Right.
They will stop their production and support us. So that kind of bonding is there. So with that in place as a second thought process, I think we can reach out to China in due course of time. But the process is already in motion.
Well, if the process is already in motion, the next piece of the puzzle to my mind, Rajiv, might be, export-oriented or export-friendly policies, right? The right frameworks that incentivize exports. What's the need of the hour there, perhaps from the point of the view of the small business community and their lens? What matters to them most?
I think for them, the two, three things from an export orientation. One is the regulatory framework to make it a little bit more easier rather than grappling through the hoops and loops of all the regulatory framework before we are allowed to export, if that can be eased up. I think a lot has been done over the years, and I think it's in progress. A lot can be done, as always. But that's one. The second, I think one of the biggest challenges that most export-oriented units face is a right distribution channel in the country or the jurisdiction that they want to export to.
Sure.
And do they have the right partner there to support them to enable that process? And if both of these things happen simultaneously or concurrently, as the case may be, then it's easier for all of the export-oriented units to flourish. The biggest impediment other than that is obviously you need to be able to cater to the quality standards that your customers in whichever jurisdiction you're trying to export to are expecting and want. That has not been a challenge, at least I can say from a Coimbatore perspective. Textiles is one very, very famous sector that has demonstrated that time and again.
Right.
So again, it's a challenge. That has not been a challenge, at least I can say from a Coimbatore perspective. Textiles is one very, very famous sector that has demonstrated that time and again.
Right.
So again, it's a challenge, but not something that cannot be managed.
SEZs largely function on the basis of global partnerships. And if one is to become a dominant player in a China plus one context, you need global partnerships. So for a city that's largely been considered or celebrated for its local success, for it to now go global, what are the type of partnerships it needs to strike? And when you talk about us being behind China, like as per certain estimates, we're 20 years behind scale. As per others, we might as well be 2 centuries behind scale. So do we need to leapfrog, and what sort of technology breakthroughs will it require perhaps to bridge that gap?
I already said that the leapfrogging is a key factor. We are actually not just 20 years behind China. We are much more behind China in terms of not just manufacturing, but in terms of technology. One of the biggest things that has taken off in China in the last 5 to 10 years at least has been that in the areas of information technology, telecommunication, and AI, they have grown leaps and bounds.
Right.
The domestic companies in China have invested billions and billions of dollars in terms of technology. Now, what is very tough for us to digest is that most of the technology was spurred in Europe and in the US. And Indians were behind most of the technology spurts
Right.
until now. So when China embraced it, they used their ingenuity and local people to augment it by centuries ahead of the other countries. So the spur started somewhere else, and there was an Indian arm always there. Now, from a Coimbatore perspective, the biggest advantage that we have is that we are quick to learn. So we are behind China, no denial at all. But in terms of technical powers, in terms of the educational institutions that are here, the change is happening. A lot has to happen from the government perspective.
Well, thank you for sharing that. And coming back to the phrase, and I'll pose this next question to all three of you. When we hear the phrase China plus one, now if we were to put on our Chinese hats for a moment, assume we are in a land far, far away, we're in China, we're one of them. What do you think they make of the phrase? I mean, do they mock it? Do they consider it to be a serious threat? Is there any element of fear? Or do they think China plus one manufacturing outside of China or beyond China is all a fad? If I could start with you.
See, if you said that a few years ago, maybe they would have mocked and they would have looked at it as a joke. But today, it's not like that. Technology is really rampant. And everywhere across the globe, we have Indians everywhere. So we have a huge amount of talent across our country and across our people. So China cannot write off India that easily today. And we can give a tough fight. We may be a +1, but still we are getting there.
And what do you make of it, Mr. Manikandan?
Now, if there's one country that China probably is afraid of, it's India. I'm proud to say this for one reason. For somebody who's traveled extensively within China on work, and later on indigenizing the components that we source from China, I can tell you one thing. China's domestic consumption is not what China produces. Whereas in India, we have sizable quantum of exports, but we also produce for us. We produce for us also, but China produces very minuscule for themselves because they do not consume. Post-liberalization, the formation of the upper middle class in India is growing leaps and bounds. That means we are the only population in the world who are not just young, but who are actual consumers. That consumerism is not there in China. So this is one. Two.
Fascinating point, by the way.
From a China perspective, one of the reasons why they are investing a lot in technology is because India has been a little behind that in terms of IT hardware manufacture. We are gaining momentum in that. But what has actually surprisingly happened and which is detrimental to China is that our friends in Africa have learned from India and they're standing up to China and saying, get off. They're looking at Indian partners. At the chamber, we know how many African countries knock at our doors to build Indian investment in those countries because for a very simple reason. They don't want to talk to China anymore. Their dependence on Chinese money has to stop. And they're willing to offer far more lucrative opportunities for Indian companies to invest in Africa because they believe India will not colonize Africa. So that strength is there within us. So China's fear of India is not just about India. It's because India is influencing Africa, which is the second largest consumer population available in the world. It's India and Africa joining hands together, not just China. Most of Europe, most of the United States of America will have a problem if these two happen. And trust me, friends, it's happening. Under the leadership of the Prime Minister, it's happening.
All right. So for members of our audience that may be looking for guidance, mentorship, ideas, or simply need to be heard, how can you act as a resource? Whose doors can they knock on? How might you be of help?
The only job that I do, honestly, is provoke. And you know, of course, the first thing is to understand the business, understand what their mindsets are, what their outlook is, where they want to go, how they want to go. But equally, I think it's important for a consultant to provoke the businesses that they're working with.
Coming to you, Aparna.
Yes. So I am a little partial to the women-led enterprise, being from the FICCI Ladies organization. So our doors are always open for any kind of mentorship, any kind of guidance you require, any of the women folk here or otherwise also. So we have been very vocal for local.
Coming to you now, the floor is yours, sir. I'll give you the last word.
I represent the Southern India Chamber of Commerce and Industry. The difference that we want to make in terms of a startup initiative is that money is available today in abundance. I'm sure everybody will agree. But what is critical that we see as a missing link is mentoring by the actual buyer.
Right. What a phenomenal note upon which to end.
With that, our coverage of IDFC First Bank presents ET Now, Leaders of Tomorrow, Season 13 Springboard comes to a close. I'm Pooja Jain signing off from the city of Coimbatore. Thanks for watching.